To the Manor born was a symbol of British comedy in the 1980s, once a dream of aristocracy and everyday life. But the real lives of the actors in the show, at times, turned into a long-running nightmare. Some died in horrific accidents, while others spiraled into addiction as a form of escape. What happened after the stage lights faded? The story about to be told will leave you unable to believe your eyes. Peter Bowles as Richard de Vere. Peter John Bowles was born on October 16, 1936, in London, England. When he was 43 years old, he played the role of Richard de Vere in the sitcom To the Manor Born, 1979, portraying a charming millionaire of Czechoslovak origin who shared a relationship of both rivalry and affection with Lady Audrey Forbes Hamilton. This role turned him into a beloved national television icon in the UK, as millions of viewers were drawn into the witty, humorous, and high-society verbal sparring between the two main characters. Bowles's childhood was a sequence of invisible boundaries of status and class. As the son of a valet and a nanny serving the British aristocracy, he grew up in cramped houses in Nottingham during the outbreak of World War II. Living between two worlds, close to the wealthy but forever an outsider, he carried a sense of detachment even after entering the arts. Due to prejudices about his appearance, he was warned while still studying at RADA that he was too dark-skinned to play an Englishman, and for much of his early career, he was typecast into villainous or foreign roles. The phenomenal success of To the Manor Born later brought a painful paradox. The BBC refused to cast him in dramatic lead roles, believing he had been typecast in television comedy. Despite a challenging career, Bowles's marriage was unusually stable and admirable within the entertainment industry. He married Susan Bennett in 1961 and stayed by her side for over 60 years until his death, raising 3 children together in their home in Barnes, southwest London. However, that steadfastness did not mean he was free from pressure. Being excluded from the mainstream of British television forced Bowles to adapt by creating, producing, and writing his own projects, such as Lytton's Diary and Perfect Scoundrels. Behind the spotlight and successful performances was a quiet man fighting not to be forgotten, not to be cast aside. Peter Bowles passed away on March 17, 2022, at the age of 85 after a long battle with cancer. His net worth was estimated at around $5 million, the result of more than 6 decades of dedication to stage and screen, from the Old Vic to the West End, from the BBC to ITV. Though he once owned Rolls-Royces and Porsches, he always maintained a discreet and elegant lifestyle until his final days. Angela Thorne as Marjorie Frobisher. Angela Margaret Leslie Thorne was born on January 25, 1939, in Karachi, British India. In 1979, when she was 40 years old, she portrayed Marjorie Frobisher in To the Manor Born, the loyal, humorous, and incredibly devoted friend of Audrey Forbes Hamilton. With her charm and distinctively elegant style, Marjorie was not just a supporting character, but the soul that made the show more lively and heartwarming. Angela's childhood was marked by the sound of gunfire and cultural dislocation. She spent the first 5 years of her life in India before returning to England with her parents. As the daughter of a military doctor who served at the Battle of Monte Cassino, she grew up under the strict shadow of army discipline and post-war scars. Though she attended private school and received formal training at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, her acting path was far from smooth. Starting with children's theater, she had to take on dozens of small roles at provincial theaters, from York to Sheffield, before gaining attention in the West End. Even though she was talented and well-educated, her graceful appearance was once considered not striking enough for modern female leads, a bias she quietly fought against for many years. Her marriage to actor Peter Penry-Jones lasted over 40 years, until his death from bowel cancer in 2009. It was the greatest shock of her life, not just because of the loss, but because he had been her co-star, life partner, and emotional anchor for nearly half a century. After her husband's death, Angela became more private. She rarely made public appearances, even though both her sons, Lawrence and Rupert, found success in the arts. Her life behind the scenes seemed calm and private, but never lonely. Friends described her as gentle, thoughtful, and devoted to her craft until the very end. Her role as Margaret Thatcher in Anyone for Denise, which earned her a prestigious Laurence Olivier Award nomination, also stands as proof of her versatility and political depth as an actress. Angela Thorne passed away peacefully at her home in Battersea on June 16, 2023, at the age of 84. Her net worth was estimated at around $2 million, accumulated through more than 50 years of quiet but unwavering dedication. Daphne Hurd as Mrs. Polouvicka. Delia Phyllis. Daphne Hurd was born on August 1, 1904 in Plymouth, Devon, England. In 1979, when she was 75 years old, she played the role of Mrs. Polouvicka, the quirky and witty European mother of Richard de Vere, in the hit series To the Manor Born. With her distinct Czechoslovak accent and lines that were both naive and sharp, Mrs. Pooh became an unforgettable highlight, bringing light but biting humor to the entire series. It was also the role that brought Daphne Hurd's name to millions of viewers in the final years of her life. But behind the image of that optimistic old lady was a life full of silence and hardship. Born at the start of the 20th century, Daphne came of age in post-war England, a society where women were bound by prejudice and limited career options. Though she studied at the prestigious RADA and later taught at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, she spent decades struggling in supporting roles, mostly playing grouchy old women, maids, or witches, as in Doctor Who. Even when she was cast into The Manor Born, some dismissed her as too old to become famous. But Daphne proved the opposite, with her sharpness, stage presence, and ability to breathe life into the smallest of roles. Daphne Hurd's private life was as melancholic as many of her characters. She lived very privately, had no husband, no children, and never publicly acknowledged any personal relationship. Some sources mention a brief, tense marriage that quickly ended, but no official confirmation exists. Throughout her long career, she avoided parties and rarely appeared in public outside of work. That very solitude made her portrayal of Mrs. Polouvicka all the more vivid, as if she poured her entire real life into a fictional character, making audiences believe in every sincere line she spoke. Daphne Hurd passed away on June 22, 1983 in Bristol at the age of 78. Though she did not leave behind a vast fortune, her net worth was estimated at around $500,000, a modest figure for nearly half a century in the profession, but the artistic value she left behind is beyond measure. John Rudling as Brabinger. John William Rudling was born on August 31, 1907, in South Norwood, London. When he was 72 years old, he played the role of Brabinger, the loyal, quiet, but insightful butler in the acclaimed television series To the Manor Born, 1979. With his stern face, calm demeanor, and trademark dry humor, Rudling brought to life a character who spoke little but left a deep impression. Before becoming well known on screen, Rudling had worked as a technical draftsman, a stable job but not one of passion. He changed course to pursue stage acting with the Royal Shakespeare Company, RSC, and performed with Ensa, entertaining British troops amid the bombs of World War II. The years he spent traveling across England with touring theater companies gave him valuable experience, but they were also long stretches of instability and loneliness. His marriage to his wife Edith, rarely mentioned in the press, was said to be filled with tension, as he was frequently away from home due to work, and their relationship gradually grew distant over time. Though they had no children, he chose to remain silent and focused entirely on his craft as a way of avoiding personal loss. While filming the second season of To the Manor Born, Rudling suffered a serious heart attack, forcing him to take a temporary break. Brabinger's absence caused concern among many viewers, and when he returned in the episode The Honors List, everyone noticed the exhaustion in his eyes and the slowness in his steps. Nevertheless, he pushed himself to finish the role with utmost professionalism, despite his declining health. Close friends revealed that even after being advised to rest, Rudling quietly refused, because stage and screen were all he had left in the final years of his life. When his marriage had grown cold, no children were by his side, and acting opportunities had become fewer. He passed away on December 18, 1983, in Leytonstone, London, due to respiratory complications, just 4 years after leaving a mark with the role of Brabinger. According to his will, his assets were estimated at around $500,000, most of it earned from decades of relentless dedication to television and theater. Gerald Sim as the Rector. Gerald Grant. Sim was born on June 4, 1925 in Liverpool, England. When he was 54 years old, he played the role of the Rector, the parish priest of Grantley, in the hit series To the Manor Born, 1979, a role that earned him special affection for its charm, humor, and wisdom. With his polished voice and calm demeanor, Gerald became a familiar face on British television through numerous roles as doctors, judges, and clergymen. This particular role not only marked the peak of his career, but also became the image most closely associated with him until the end of his life. Gerald Sim's childhood was far from dazzling. As the youngest in a middle-class family, he grew up in the shadow of his famous sister, the actress Sheila Sim. Captivated by acting after hearing a radio broadcast in 1943, he auditioned for RADA and began his career with nameless small roles. Although his career was steady with over 100 roles, he was consistently cast in supporting parts, quietly contributing to the success of others. This often led him to be forgotten under the spotlight, even though his talent and dedication were always recognized by colleagues. In 1967, he married actress Deirdre Benner, a life partner who understood and stayed by his side for 32 years. However, what seemed like a lasting marriage came to an end when she passed away in 1999. From that point, Gerald withdrew from the limelight and lived in solitude at the Denville Hall Care Home in Northwood, where his brother-in-law, director Richard Attenborough, and his sister were also laid to rest. The rooms of the three were next to each other, but they each passed away one by one, leaving Gerald alone in a space once filled with cherished memories. He passed away on December 11, 2014, at the age of 89. Though he never caused a stir, his net worth was estimated at around $1 million, the result of decades of tireless artistic labor. Peter Penry-Jones as Gayforth. Peter David Penry-Jones was born on May 20, 1938, in Cardiff, Wales. When he was 43 years old, he appeared in the acclaimed series To the Manor Born, 1981, as Gayforth, a subtle supporting character who added depth to the humorous narrative of British aristocracy. Throughout his career, he appeared regularly in television series such as Colditz, Bergerac, Howard's Way, and Midsummer Murders, and was also a member of the prestigious National Theatre, founded by Laurence Olivier. Born into a family where his father was a Presbyterian minister, Peter was raised under strict expectations of morality and emotional restraint. The artistic path he chose was not without obstacles, not only from his family but also from the harsh realities of the entertainment industry, where he was often overshadowed by bigger names. Nevertheless, he remained committed to backstage work, took on supporting roles, and labored tirelessly to sustain his passion, a career that was steady but rarely celebrated publicly. His marriage to actress Angela Thorne, who would later also join To the Manor Born, was a steady anchor in his life. They married in 1967 and had 2 sons, Rupert and Lawrence, both of whom followed in their parents' footsteps as actors. However, Peter's final years were filled with hardship. A prolonged battle with bowel cancer not only drained his body, but also cast a shadow over a deeply loving family. Though he never publicly shared his personal suffering, his silence in the face of adversity only made the tragedy more quietly profound. He passed away on March 11, 2009 in Anglesey, at the age of 70. At the time of his death, His net worth was estimated at around $1 million, the result of a lifetime of quietly devoted work in the arts. Richard Thorp as Lovejoy. Richard Stanley Thorp was born on January 2, 1932, in Purley, England. When he was 49 years old, he appeared in the series To the Manor Born as Lovejoy. A railway official featured in the episode about the closure of the local station. Though his appearance was brief, his sincere performance still left a lasting impression. Outside the spotlight, Thorp's life was marked by quiet fractures. He went through 3 failed marriages and had 4 children with 3 different wives. In a rare 1995 interview, Thorp revealed that although they were separated, he and his last wife still lived under the same roof, a contradictory arrangement reflecting the layered instability of his personal life. He was not one to share much, but close colleagues noted that he had endured deep personal losses he never voiced aloud. Behind his gentle demeanor and calm presence was a man who bore many wounds in silence. In his later years, Thorp quietly battled health issues, especially after undergoing knee surgery in 2009, which forced him to leave the set for nearly a year. When he returned, his role as Alan Turner was significantly reduced, something he once lightly complained about, saying he was no longer used as much as before. Yet he remained committed, perhaps because the set was the last place where he felt truly needed. Richard Thorp passed away on May 22, 2013, in Leeds, at the age of 81. With a career spanning more than half a century, particularly his 30-year role in Emmerdale, his net worth was estimated at around $1 million, a modest sum but well-earned through a life of serious craftsmanship and heartfelt contributions to those who knew him. Daphne Oxenford as Mrs. Patterson. Daphne Oxenford was born on October 31, 1919, in London, England. She joined the beloved sitcom To the Manor, born in 1981, when she was 62 years old, playing Miss Bird, a charming supporting character from the household staff, often seen in the backdrop of traditional English village life. Though she only appeared in a few episodes, she left an impression with her natural, humorous, and subtle acting style, reflecting the storytelling flair that had become her signature. It was one of her final television roles before she gradually stepped away from the screen. But before the stage lights came a long and bumpy road. Daphne's childhood was disrupted by the early death of her father, forcing her mother, a writer, to raise her alone through hardship. After studying acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, she took on various side jobs during wartime, including censoring soldiers' love letters, a task she once described as heartbreaking. During this period, she also suffered a miscarriage with her first child, a sorrow she never spoke of again. In 1951, she married David Marshall and had 2 daughters. But married life was not always smooth. The pressures of work, long touring roles, and her husband's prolonged illness led her to consider leaving the stage multiple times. Despite everything, Daphne continued to serve the arts quietly. She became a beloved radio figure in the UK through the children's program Listen with Mother, immortalized by the phrase, "Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin." Few knew that even during her peak years, she was once cut from a major role for being not famous enough, a blow that nearly made her quit acting. In her final years, after her husband's passing in 2003, Daphne lived quietly at Denville Hall, a retirement home for actors, where she was cared for by fellow artists who had admired her since the golden days of stage and radio. Daphne Oxenford passed away on December 21, 2012, at the age of 93. With hundreds of stage, television, and radio roles over more than 60 years, her net worth was estimated at around $1 million, just enough to allow her peaceful rest and the honor of being remembered by a loyal generation of audiences. Bill Travers as Arthur Smith. Bill Travers, full name William Inglis Lyndon Travers, was born on January 3, 1922. In 1980, when he was 58 years old, he appeared in the television series To the Manor Born as Arthur Smith, a beloved supporting character known for his charm and approachability. Although he only appeared once, in the episode Tramps and Poachers, the role revealed a gentle, down-to-earth side to his otherwise extensive and dramatic film career. Bill Travers' youth was far from smooth. At the age of 18, he volunteered to serve in World War II, joining the Gurkhas and Special Forces units in India and Burma. During one dangerous operation, he contracted malaria and was forced to escape pursuit by Japanese troops by disguising himself as Chinese and walking hundreds of miles through jungle terrain to rejoin Allied forces. Witnessing the devastation of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima left lifelong trauma. All the tension, loss, and psychological damage clung to him quietly, even after he left the military to pursue acting. His marriage to actress Virginia McKenna, his co-star in the iconic film Born Free, was both a sweet and challenging journey. They married in 1957, united by their passion for film and their shared ideals of animal conservation. However, fame, work pressure, and the burden of raising 4 children often placed great strain on their relationship. Though they appeared to be an ideal couple, behind the scenes their marriage had moments of crisis and emotional distance. In his final years, Bill became physically and emotionally exhausted as he traveled across Europe's deteriorating zoos, filming and exposing the mistreatment of animals, a mission both humanitarian and deeply haunting. On March 29, 1994, Bill Travers died in his sleep of a heart attack at his peaceful home in South Holmwood, Surrey, at the age of 72. His net worth was estimated at around $1 million, mostly from his renowned film roles and decades of television work. His devoted wife, Virginia McKenna, and their son, Will Travers, continued the work he had begun, maintaining and expanding the Born Free Foundation. Michael Bilton as Ned. Robert Michael Bilton was born on December 14, 1919, in Cottingham, East Riding of Yorkshire, England. When he played the role of Ned, the devoted gardener and occasional butler to Lady Audrey in the acclaimed sitcom To the Manor born in 1979, he was already 61 years old. Though his character had limited screen time, it made a strong impression thanks to his wit, calm demeanor, and dedication. After World War II, during which he was injured in the Battle of El Alamein, Bilton returned with both physical and emotional scars. Rising again from the battlefield to the theater was a difficult path. The roles he later took on, ranging from comedic to melancholic, often reflected the inner shadows he carried. Off-stage, Bilton's personal life was filled with cracks. He endured 2 failed marriages, the first to Sally West in 1944, and the second to actress Valerie Newbold from 1953 to 1967. With no children and no one to carry on his legacy, he lived out his later years in solitude, a loneliness he once described as the hollow echo behind the stage curtain. As he aged, Bilton's health deteriorated due to debilitating arthritis, which eventually forced him to withdraw from the stage, his only emotional refuge after war and broken marriages. Still, he left a lasting impression with his role as Basil Makepeace, the humorous forest god in the series Waiting for God. It was also his final role. Shortly after completing filming for the 4th season, Bilton passed away suddenly on November 5, 1993, in Berkhamsted, Hertfordshire, at the age of 73. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $500,000, a modest amount that honestly reflected the life of a devoted artist who spent more time in the background than in the spotlight. Michael Ripper as Trotter. Michael George Ripper was born on January 27, 1913, in Portsmouth, England. When he was 66 years old, he appeared in the television series To the Manor born, 1979, as Trotter, a simple supporting character who added a humorous touch to the evolving story of British aristocracy. Though not a lead, Ripper's presence brought a distinct, grounded quality that audiences never forgot. Once dubbed the familiar face of Hammer films, Ripper had a long career with over 30 film appearances, though most were in minor roles such as coachmen, pub landlords, or gravekeepers. His career took a significant blow after a thyroid operation in 1952 weakened his voice, forcing him to leave the theater, the place where his love for acting had begun. This change led to financial stress as he shifted to film but was often cast in small, low-paying roles with little dialogue. Even so, he remained committed to his craft, choosing a quiet life far from the glitz of celebrity. Michael Ripper's personal life was also far from smooth. He went through 3 marriages, 2 of which ended in divorce. His relationship with Catherine Finn, his second wife and the mother of one of his 2 children, ended in 1978, leaving behind silent wounds he rarely discussed. In his later years, he lived alone in London, without luxury or scandal, but also without a close support system. His final days were spent quietly in a modest flat, said to still be decorated with photographs from his past roles. Michael Ripper passed away on June 28, 2000, at the age of 87. His net worth was estimated at around $500,000, a modest sum for more than 60 years in film, but perhaps enough to testify to a life lived wholeheartedly for the craft, quietly but profoundly. Ben Aris as Spalding. Benjamin Patrick Aris was born on March 16, 1937, in London. When he was 43 years old, he appeared in the series To the Manor Born as Spalding, a supporting character featured in 3 episodes from 1980 to 1981. Though his role was not large, his witty aristocratic flair helped define the show's signature comedic tone. Behind his charming appearance and composed performances was a life of many upheavals. After completing his military service, Aris dedicated himself to supporting roles for more than 4 decades, appearing in films like Get Carter, The Charge of the Light Brigade, and collaborating with director Ken Russell. However, the absence of a truly leading role kept him from achieving mainstream fame. Over time, this led to feelings of disappointment, self-doubt, and depression, burdens he kept hidden behind the curtain. His divorce in the late 1980s was said to be a major emotional blow that caused him to withdraw further into his private life. In his final years, Aris lived quietly in Surrey, away from the spotlight. Though he continued to appear in small roles on television and stage, including in The Lady in the Van alongside Dame Maggie Smith, his health began to decline. By the time cancer was diagnosed, it was already too late. He no longer had the strength to continue acting, and during his last months, he lived in solitude, though his son, actor Jonathan Aris, remained by his side. Benjamin Aris passed away on September 4, 2003, at the age of 66. His net worth was estimated at around $500,000, a figure that reflects a career steady but never soaring. Time may fade many things, but those faces, that voice, still live on in the memories of millions. Are you thinking of someone among them? Share your story with us. And if you'd like to hear more emotional and nostalgic stories like these, don't forget to like and subscribe.